Now, happy to be joined on Skype by the man behind Vaught's Views, Larry Vaught. Larry, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy it.
Now, you've been following UK football, right? And we talked before the season. It was try to make the best of it, find the positives. We're now at a point where those little positives is all we have. The fans are frustrated. The attendance was low. Have you ever seen anything like this in your years covering the team?
No, because I've seen UK have a lot worse football teams than this that the fans followed very religiously and filled the stadium with. But I think the success that Rich Brooks had fans wanting a little bit more. I think the economy right now has played a factor into that. And I think also the fact that all the games are now on TV and you can sit home and watch them on TV has played an impact on that. And kind of the surprising thing about it is that Kentucky has some young talent that 10, 15, 20 years ago, Kentucky had this same kind of young talent on a team. A lot of the UK fans have been talking about going to the Sugar Bowl and everything 2 or 3 years down the road. But expectations have changed a little bit because this team has not been as good, and last year's team was not as good. They're paying a little bit of a price for that right now with the fan attendance.
Do you think that can change from now to the end of the season? There are some games you look at on the schedule that are, in theory, winnable. They're not South Carolinas, the Floridas, things like that. And they are playing these young players. Do you think there's anything they can do down the line to kind of bring people back in for this season and buy into what they're doing?
I'm guessing it's probably too late for this season. What they're probably playing for is to try to get people to buy in to next season. There's so much speculation now about whether Joker Phillips will or will not be back next year, and whether this team's going to win 3 games or only win 2 games or maybe win 4 games. It just seems to me that it's going to be hard to get the fans back, especially now that you got Big Blue Madness just right around the corner. A lot of attention is going to turn to basketball. That if this team could go out and beat a Mississippi State this week and then go to Arkansas the next week and win that game, then maybe people would kind of jump back on the bandwagon somewhat. But I don't think we're going to see any games with 60,000 in Commonwealth this year, no matter what happens.
And it's only going to get more difficult now. We found out that Max Smith is out indefinitely. They're going to take the red shirt off Patrick Towles and put him out there probably with Jalen Whitlow, mixing them back and forth. How do you think this affects Joker's situation? Does this maybe give him a little bit of a cushion, excuse because of an injured quarterback? Or do you think this is really just kind of makes everything worse for him?
I don't know that it really is going to impact it. In fact, it's kind of interesting to think about it, because what if he played Towles and Towles looked great and you won 2 or 3 games? You think, wow, now they ought to, now they've got a real quarterback that people like, and Joker's got him in there. Let's bring it back. But you might flip it around and say, well, why wasn't he playing for game 1 if Towles goes in and looks really good? So you don't know how all this could end up playing out. I think it's going to be interesting in the fact that I still think Towles and Whitlow were the 2 best quarterbacks on campus. So I think the fact that Maxwell Smith had started out well was okay. He hadn't played against the SEC teams like what these guys are going to have to now. So I think in the long run, going ahead and playing these 2 guys this year is going to be good for the future of UK football. Whether it's going to be good for the future of Joker Phillips, I don't know.
And let's say, assuming they make a change at the head coach at the end of the season, where do you, in your views, what is this job basically? Is it you can go out and get a big name coach job? Is it you try to find an assistant type of job? Where does this rate nationally, in your opinion, as a coaching job?
Well, if you've been doing this as long as I have, TJ, you'll know you can just answer yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
They've tried getting assistant coaches like back in the early 60s when they got John Ray. That was a talk of the nation. Kentucky had stole this guy from Notre Dame. Look what he was going to do. Well, that didn't work out too good. They had Fran Kersey, kind of a young and rising guy. Well, that looked like it was going to be great, and the program got into trouble. That didn't go so good. Then you got a big name with Jerry Claiborne, and you thought, wow, this could end up being pretty good. Didn't start out so well. They had a couple of good years, and it didn't exactly work out the way you wanted. Then, boom, you go and get Bill Curry from Alabama. That's a huge name. You think, wow, this is what's going to do. This is going to turn it around and get it going. That didn't work. So then you go out and get a young and rising star and Hal Mumme, who I still think was a great hire, just that they needed someone to kind of keep things in check a little bit more. So that turned out to not work. Then you turned over to Guy Morris. A guy had been in your program, knew your program, thought you would know what was going to happen. Well, he had one bad season, one good season, and boom, he's gone. Then now You bring in Rich Brooks, which a little bit looked like a desperation move. Didn't start out great, and it turned out pretty good. And Rich raised expectations and had guys he put in the NFL. And you think, wow, this program's really on good footing now. We're going to turn it over to Joker Phillips, a guy that bleeds blues, been around here, assistant coach. Now he's ready to make his name. And then now that hadn't turned out so good. So they've tried a lot of different things. If it's me, they do make a coaching change. You want to show the Kentucky fan you're really serious about what's going on, and you want to get those people back in the seats next year. I think you got to put together a package that financially probably doesn't make sense for Kentucky. It also enables you to go out and any coach in the country, make them at least want to talk to you because of the money you're going to put in there. Because if you say what you want about the facilities and different things, but if you got to have the right guy calling the shots, the facilities don't really matter. So to me, you put together the most outrageous package you can put together financially, and then just go out and start with the names, the very best coaches in the country, and see where it takes you.
And we got a little bit of time left. Looking ahead to this schedule, like we said before, there are some games where Arkansas is down, Vanderbilt isn't quite what we thought they were. Looking ahead to the rest of the schedule, how many games do you think this team wins?
If I had to just be a betting man today, I would still just say one. That would be Samford. But I could make a case where I think they could win more. I think games at Arkansas and Missouri don't look near as difficult now as what I maybe would have thought a month ago. I think the home games with Mississippi State and Vanderbilt look a little more doable than what you maybe thought. I even think Georgia and Tennessee, who are both probably better than Kentucky, but both have some defensive deficiencies, could end up being really interesting games. So I think you can make a case, if you want to be the total optimist, there's not a game on the schedule the rest of the way that should scare you like what Florida and South Carolina did. But I just don't know if Kentucky's going to have enough in the tank to win any of those games or not, because when you have trouble stopping the run in the SEC, that's usually a formula for not much success.
It will certainly be interesting one way or the other as the season plays out. Larry, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure talking with you.
I appreciate it, TJ.